Hello there, this is me and Barney. Just wanted to do a bit of a studio tour and show you what sort of kit I'm using. Hello dog. So as you've just seen there, I have a studio dog. His name is Barney, and he spends most of his time sat on this sofa. This is his bed, right? So we've got my overall studio of toys, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what I've got going on in this particular room then. This is my Yamaha SY77. I've got bunch of voice cards for it. It's still on its original screen, and yeah, I absolutely love it. My room's not that big, so it sits up here on a shelf and is remotely midded up to the DAW system. On top of it, I've got my XP30, my Roland, sat under an awful lot of kit and gloves and hats and things like that. Again, it's midded up. It's got the expansion boards in it as well, and it just adds some extra Roland sounds to the actual sound palette. This is my Korg Kronos, my K61. This was one of the first ones in the country at the time. It's completely loaded, it's got extra SSD, updated OSs and firmware and everything, and sound banks, etc, etc. A bit of a workhorse really. Gets used on both my live performances and for my studio stuff. I'm currently set to the Poly 6. Just in the background there, you can see my Casio CZ101, not being used at the moment, just because it's not being used right now. The Oberheim OB12, a joint venture, as it says here, between Oberheim and the Italian firm Viscount. Great sounds. I've currently got it on test, simply because the OS and the firmware are a little bit flaky. When it's working, it sounds really nice, very fat, very warm, but it is a case of when it's working. My Yamaha Tenorian, really quirky step-based sequencer, lots and lots of buttons and all that type of stuff. Planning to use it in my live rig. Fantastic cradle here, made by my good friend Nick Warburton at Nick's Creations, and that works really well. So then we get to some of the rack mounted stuff. This is the Roland System 1M. To be honest, I don't use it as much as I possibly should. It's meant to be one of the Roland modular synths. It's very clean and crisp though, but it does light up quite pretty, and every now and again I might use it for like some top end sounds. My entire rig goes through the Motu 828 Mark III, simply because it's an easy way to get all of my hardware into the DAW system. All the MIDI is handled by the Uniter 8 Mark II. I've got an antiquated old Quadriverb Plus there, which is fantastic. Still gets used on certain sounds. Everything goes through the patch bay, and then beneath that I've got a Voice Live 2, the TC electronic, and the eagle-eyed will actually see there's my old Korg Wavestation D. So this is my antiquated Virus B synth by Access Music. Just a wonderful fat virtual analog. It's a very full sounding synth, and I've used it on pretty much, well, there's very little I haven't actually used it on. Lots of homemade presets in it now. Most of the actual banks of sounds have been completely wiped. The Behringer Deepmine 12, again, a bit of a surprise because I didn't expect it to be as good as it actually is. I bought it on a punt. If I was going to complain about anything, the fan's a bit blinking noisy on it, but it does work kind of well. You can attach it to a iPad and everything, but it seems a bit daft when it's so controllable from the front panel. The Roland V Synth XT, major surprise because I bought it on a punt because I was bored, and it sat in the box for about 2 months while I was getting my studio rebuilt, and I was about to sell it, and I chanced upon a video on YouTube of one of the NAMM demonstrators, and then I heard about the wonderfulness that is Variphrase technology. Just wow, I simply couldn't believe what it did, and ever since then it's been a stalwart in my my arsenal. I've tried to get pretty much every synthesis engine type that I can think of. However, what I do use is an awful lot of presets. That's not to say that using presets is a bad thing. I couldn't care less. But what I tend to do is I'll use my presets as a starting point, and then thankfully, because all these various items have got so many controls and the editing functions are so readily accessible, I'll go and tweak the sounds, and I'll tweak them heavily. They then get obviously up there processed seriously, just to take it a little bit further. I've gone down the whole route of sound design and sitting there making sounds and everything, and by the time I've created the sound that I really like, I've kind of forgotten what I was using it for. Call that a failing. With regards to samples, same thing. I've got various samplers. The Kronos has got a kick-ass sampler in it, as does the V Synth. On the DAW, on Logic, I use Logic's sampler, and buried deep in a cupboard down there, I've even got my old Akai S3000 XL. So I've got plenty of samplers to actually choose from. I don't tend to use that much in the way of lots and lots of loops and everything, but I will use quirky stuff. I've also got Splice, which while absolutely fantastic, I do tend to get lost in because there's so much on there. So I've got a bunch of controllers here, all sorts of stuff for portable. I take those on holiday with me. The launch pad does get used with Ableton Live, as does the iPad. It's currently running Logic Remote, and I've also got Yukon on it as well for Pro Tools and Logic, obviously Ableton, and of course Cubase. I don't use the iPad and iOS for soft synths yet, simply because I haven't really felt the need to yet. The biggest addition to my rig has been my focal shaped twins. The room itself isn't that big, and it's about 3 meters by 4 meters wide, or 3 meters wide by 4 meters long, sorry. And they fill the room very well, and they are not too bassy. They're very accurate, and I absolutely have so much faith in what actually comes out of them. So my DAW controller is the SSL Nucleus. Great bit of kit. It doesn't need to be anything more than what I'm using it for, simply because it fits my purpose perfectly. There's a couple of SSL mic amps on there which enable me to record vocals, and it works between Logic, Pro Tools, and I've currently got it set up for Ableton. Moving faders, all capacitive faders, and all the controls are then mapped to the various plugins inside my DAW. So my main music keyboard controller is an antiquated old Yamaha KX88 88-note weighted piano. I've also got a Roland A80, which is a bit more of a synth action weighted keyboard, for probably more so live use because the action's quite light. But this piano is so expressive, and it's just a lovely item. All the keyboards, so the SY77, the XP30, the OB12, the Kronos, and everything, they're all midded up, so I've got a combination of synth action and the piano action too. So last but not least, I've got an iMac with a second 55-inch screen, and there's a spare 32-inch 4K screen too. Running Logic, running all my DAWs and the various bits of software. Standard Mac fare these days. So that's my studio then. There's a few other bits which I haven't included, like my laptop and everything, just because, well, once you've seen a laptop, you've kind of seen a laptop. If you like what you've seen, feel free to put some comments in there, and if there's any other questions, feel free to stick them in the comments box, and I'll do my best to answer them.